It's the Art of Action Figures Premium Bandai Edition. This time we're looking at the S.H.Figuarts Krillin, Son Goku's old friend from Dragon Ball Z. This is his appearance from the Saiyan saga, the Namek saga, a couple of the movies. Classic look for Krillin without the blue undershirt, which he gets later in the Android saga. We have that figure. It's the Earth's strongest man, and we'll see how these two compare. I'm pretty close to having all of the versions of Krillin that I would want from Dragon Ball Z. I would like his Buu Saga, the red shirt with hair. I really like the Buu Saga, so would love to see it at some point along with a Buu Saga 18. Another hot take, I love the Garlic Jr. saga and would really like to have Krillin in the white shirt. I think Dragon Ball's B team of Krillin, Gohan, and Piccolo is super underrated. Like most premium Bandai figures, especially these days, it's too expensive. And with that out of the way, let's start digging in with a quick tour of the box. You'll find all your brand logos, safety, and production info on the front of the box. Along the bottom, we have Bandai, Tamashii Nations, Dragon Ball Z, Tamashii web exclusive, since this was premium Bandai in the US, holographic Toei animation sticker, holographic Tamashii Nations quality sticker, designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan, Bandai Spirits, made in Vietnam, intended for ages 15 and up, warning, choking hazard, small parts, not for children under 3 years. Product may differ from photo. We have a big color photo of Krillin powering up on the front. The cutout for the window follows his outline. Through the window, we can see the figure and the alternate head sculpts, which are super expressive. Figure name is printed on the window in white text, S.H.Figuarts Krillin, Son Goku's old friend. Background and accent color is orange, matching Krillin's gi, and we can see just a little bit of the black and white figure photos peeking through. This one continues up onto the top of the box. I think this is his maybe Destructo Disc pose. We have black and white using the key blast on the bottom, name of the figure, accent color. On the left, just a little bit more window. On the right, we have a picture of his flexing bicep, hitting the solar flare, and getting that sweet, sweet 1-star Dragon Ball from Guru. Finally, around the back, collage of the full color promo images, powering up, hitting the Destructo Disc, getting the Dragon Ball, solar flare, fire in the ki blast, charge in the Kamehameha, and powering up with Gohan and his weird neck. Some write-up about S.H.Figuarts brand, barcode and Bandai Namco distribution info at the bottom. Thus completes our tour of the box. Let's go ahead and crack it open. Sharp object warning. Use an adult or an adult brain if you have one for this part. We're just going to go ahead, slice the tape on the right, and then to open the box without wrinkling the flap, gently guide the blade, push the blunt edge towards the back, and it slides right out. Go ahead, put your sharp object away. We don't want that anywhere near the figure anymore. No instructions on the flap, so we're back to instructions behind this color insert. It's a nice glossy insert, very cool. Short little instruction sheet showing you the alternate hand parts, how to interchange the heads, how to use the effect part. It looks like it comes with a little support, and highlighting the different soft PVC parts on the figure that might deform when moved. We have some extended warnings. I don't know if these come on every figure. Read them in this case because I found some of them interesting. At the bottom, a product questionnaire. So if you want, here's a little QR code or a link to go take a survey. I think these usually just ask like, hey, what do you want to see from the Dragon Ball line? So we can go and tell them we want Videl. There's a small second layer, which just has the base for the display stand used for the effect. Tamashii trays do not grip the accessories in any way, so make sure it's on a flat surface when you open it. Don't do this in a car. And here we go. He has 5 really good looking head sculpts. By default, a grumpy face, a gritting teeth face, a really, really happy, excited face, a shouting face with his eyes open, and then a shouting face with his eyes closed. 6 pairs of hands, including a pair of fists, 2 finger pointing hands, clenched finger open palm hands, splayed finger open palm hands, martial arts style pose hands, a pair of splayed finger open palm hands with pegs to peg into the final accessory, which is this 2-handed key blast effect that also includes a stand. Value-wise, it's a bit of a stretch, especially compared to Earth's Strongest Man, which was a retail figure priced at, I think, $65 US. Goku's Old Friend is a premium Bandai exclusive, base price $80 US, plus premium Bandai charges $10 shipping for anything, which is kind of a lot. Add tax, and you're looking at right around $100 for this figure. And looking at the two side by side, it's really not obvious where that extra $30, $40 went, other than maybe a smaller production run and one additional head sculpt by comparison. But did this need to be a premium Bandai small production run? The other thing that's probably playing a part is just the rising cost of everything. For size comparisons, would you believe this is supposed to be the same character at roughly the same age? I wouldn't. I know Dragon Ball's art changes over time, even page to page or frame by frame. Doesn't mean the figures have to, though. And I think it's a huge missed opportunity for Tamashii to kind of sweeten the deal of buying multiple versions of a character by making the heads interchangeable. You wouldn't need 3 versions of the same, like, grumpy expression, and maybe we could get a Krillin smiling face, which unbelievably still doesn't exist, at least not for adult Krillin. I think the kid Krillin has kind of like a smug smiling face, but adult Krillin really just needs a plain old smiling face. We've got proportions all over the place and heads incompatible with each other, at least like size and skin tone wise. You can maybe make the neck joints work. Turtle School martial arts class of, I don't know what year Dragon Ball takes place in, but we've got the Yamcha. This figure is just called Yamcha, believe it or not. And the Goku from the Nimbus exclusive edition, which I gotta say, not the most consistent with their selection of orange, but cool that we've got these 3 guys. For some Saiyan Saga action, we have Kid Era Gohan and Piccolo, the Proud Namekian. Here's the Vegeta 24,000 power level and Nappa. This is the exclusive with the anime colors. And here's Namek Bulma and Android 18. Some Namek mini bosses, mini in sequence, not in stature. We have Dodoria and Raccoon. Some movie villains from movies where Krillin's wearing this outfit. It's Turles from The Tree of Might, and Final Form Cooler from Cooler's Revenge. For articulation, there aren't too many big surprises. If you've handled the new Cell Saga Gohan, this figure is pretty similar to that aside from the knees. Starting at the neck, it's on a dumbbell joint going into the neck, and then another ball joint from the neck to the body. This little cylinder doesn't really enhance the articulation other than the fact that it allows you to kind of raise and lower the neck height, and that can help with some like extreme poses, like if I push this all the way down and then push his head forward. Without sliding the head, he can look down about this much, and then if you start to let the head slide on that cylinder, it looks funky from this angle, but if your goal was to show him like kicking this way, looks up about 45 degrees, and then if you slide the neck a little bit, it doesn't really add much. Tilt side to side, and then turn and twist in any direction. The shoulders are standard 3.0 ball joint going down into the torso, and then a ball hinge at the shoulder itself with a soft cap piece. This is a fairly soft plastic, so that's good. The hinge lets you raise the arm about this much. Ball joint can swivel all the way around, but I find with these shoulder cap setup, it's easier to go one direction or the other rather than do a full 360. Butterfly joint works best if you pull the shoulder out first and then bring the arm forward. That gives you the most clearance. You can see how that dumbbell joint in there is like tilting. And that's how you maximize the range with this style of joint. So pull this out to tilt that ball joint, and then you get really good butterfly range. His arms are pretty short, but he can still cross his hands in front. He can bring them together going straight up, and similar around the back. Great thing about this shoulder setup, it gives you really, really fluid range of motion in any direction. It's not a hinge that only goes forward, so you can even use it to like extend his arm, and from some angles you can kind of use that to exaggerate punching pose and things like that. You can use it to raise his shoulders and make him look a little wider. So it's a really nice joint. It looks good and it's very functional. Bicep swivel, double hinge elbows, get great range, about 130, about 135, 90, and then another 45. And the corner here is pretty well preserved. Ball hinge wrists go in and out or up and down, no problem. The torso is most similar to the Cell Games Gohan, and so I haven't taken this apart, but my guess, it's either a single ball joint or a ball joint with maybe a hinge at the top. Ab crunch going forward, not a ton of range, maybe 30 degrees. That could definitely be better. And then leaning back, maybe 30 degrees going back also. And then side to side, again 30 degrees side tilt. So a little bit stiff, and I find that if you're like really working it, the belt can shift out of position. There's a little notch in the waist where the knot is supposed to go, and sometimes it can kind of lift out of there and shift. The belt tie is on a swivel. Swivel hinge hips with the kind of more modern thigh cut design. They go forward to about here, which isn't very much, before they start flexing the waist. And I mean, to get 90 degrees, you really gotta deform that soft plastic, which I don't like. That seems like it's relying a little bit too much on the soft material to get the range that it really should. The soft material should be there for like extra beyond 90 degrees, not just to allow 90 degrees in the first place. Kicking back just a little bit before it hits the butt sculpt. Maybe like 10 degrees back. Side to side is actually really good. Again, really relying on distorting the soft waist piece. I do appreciate that these hinge blocks look pretty good, really good. This has been a weird issue that's plagued Figuarts ever since they started doing this style of hip. Every now and then there will just be like big exposed blocky bits hanging down here, and they don't need to be like that. Here they've even sculpted some wrinkles into them, so it blends a little bit more, and they're definitely nice and seamless. They don't protrude. And he gets almost 180 side to side split, so that's really good. Doesn't get any inverse hip range. I'm not sure if the peg here is really a ball joint, but there doesn't seem to be a ton of ball joint-like movement on it, so that means no inverse hip range going in, and this is about as close as he can bring his legs together, which is decent, but could be a little bit better. The thigh swivel is embedded behind this sort of cutout shape for the pants, and it works pretty well. It gives you maybe 60 degrees of rotation outward, which is the most important, and then maybe 45 inward, which is actually pretty good. He has these new single jointed knees, and they give you just about 90. He doesn't have a shin joint. There's not really a whole lot of room for it, but he does have ball hinge ankles, and so technically you can use that ball to kind of pivot the foot up, and that kind of exaggerates the knee bend slightly. It has a similar function to like a hinge or a ball joint on the shin, if you get what I mean there. And then the ball hinge ankles are nice. They go up maybe 30 degrees, which is pretty good. He has pretty good clearance with his like kind of socks instead of boots. Down like 60 degrees, that's really good. I like when the toes can point almost straight down. It works best for kicking and flying poses, aerial poses. I think that's really necessary to be able to point the toes. Pivot side to side, also quite good. Toe hinge works really well. Gets almost 90 degrees bend going up. It has a plastic pin that matches the blue color of his shoe. It does not go down due to the way they sculpted the treads, but I think that's all right since he can already point his toe pretty well with the ankle articulation. So overall, the range of motion is decent. It's about what I expected. The shoulders, as always with this design, are fantastic. The neck is pretty good. The torso is a little stiff. The hips work well, but do require you to flex and deform the waist piece to get the most out of them. The knees are acceptable. No major tolerance issues. I have one squeaky joint. His left ankle hinge. Everything's pretty firm, but smooth. I know after Shallot and Giblet, there's been a lot of talk about the quality control for the SHF figures coming out of Vietnam, but happy to report no mechanical issues with this Krillin. It's really nice overall. His head tends to make him a little bit top-heavy, and I think that problem is exaggerated by how much hollow, soft material is used for his core. And this is something I've been noticing with recent figures that have this design. It helps the range of motion in a lot of ways, but it does have a like destabilizing effect on the figure itself. I know internally the joints are still hard plastic, but there's not as much hard plastic material surrounding them. Aside from yet to be seen durability, I don't really mind soft PVC overlays in general, as long as there's still mechanical clearance. What I don't like is on figures like this one, the Daima Goku, Cell Games Gohan, I don't like when the soft material becomes mechanically dominant. And what I mean by that is if we look at his torso range, the joint would allow this much range, but then you're getting this like springing back because the overlay is flexing, and then it's an elastic material and it acts like rubber, basically. It doesn't bother me as much on figures like the Games Begin Goku because there is an actual cut there and there is actual clearance. So the soft overlay is really there just to kind of maximize the long tail articulation. I don't like when the core articulation of the figure is dependent on the soft material. We talked about it with the legs, how you can only move them to like here before they start flexing the diaper. That kind of thing, that's like Hasbro tier engineering, and I really don't go to Bandai for Hasbro tier engineering. Soft parts have their place. I think they're welcome in moderation, but when they become like mechanically dominant, like this torso joint, that's when I have a problem with it. It almost makes it feel like a plastic figure with a rubber midsection, and doesn't feel good to handle. I don't know if people remember like Bendham's, where it was basically just a rubber action figure with wires in it. No joints, didn't move properly at all. It's the same reason I don't really like bendy wire tentacles and tails and things like that on figures. It's just not mechanically precise. Plastic is, and it's the main reason I collect Bandai and other import figures in the first place. I like the precision of the plastics they use. And if they're going to go down this road of basically turning their figures into gummy rubber men, I don't know if I'm on board for that. So I think the Games Begin Goku is heading in a good direction. I don't know why they didn't incorporate that for Krillin. There maybe just isn't enough room. But then I think they probably should have done something else, because this midsection is really disappointing. Feels like a primarily plastic figure with a rubber core, and is kind of unpleasant, reminiscent of Hasbro, and that's not great. Getting in nice and close, let's talk about the details and finish. There's nothing too extravagant. It's pretty straightforward, mostly molded plastic colors with just a few printed details. The line work on the face is excellent. He's got a big bald head, as he should, and I don't know, you might think it's too shiny, but canonically Krillin waxes his head, so the skin tone parts are bare molded plastic. Elbow joints match really well. The Turtle School logo is really cleanly applied to the front and the back of his gi. The belt is a separate molded piece. Wristbands are painted blue, and the lines are pretty clean. No major paint mask issues here. Pretty clean. And then moving down to his legs. This is the one spot on the figure where some of the different plastic materials don't totally match. They've used harder plastic for this inner thigh joint, and for some reason half of the lower leg. I'm not really sure why the lower leg is more than one piece, but you can see there's a pretty clear seam and a little bit of a color difference, where the top has a little bit more red. The black cuffs are painted onto his pants pretty nicely. And I think the shoes are molded blue plastic with white applied for the socks and the soles. The toe joint is pinned with a blue plastic pin. They used to use metal pins for the toe joints, but since the 3.0 figures, they've started using plastic of some kind. Pretty straightforward head to toe. Close up on the neutral expression. And for comparison, here's Earth's Strongest Man, which is supposed to be Krillin a couple years older, Cell Saga art style. So the features are a little more square. And if you prefer the smaller head size, it's not a direct fit. The cylinder is wider on ESM. It does actually slide on all the way down at an angle. The skin tone doesn't completely match. but it's basically ready to go if you like the faces on Earth's Strongest Man or the proportions. It is not compatible in the reverse. You'd have to take this whole ball peg out probably. Looking at his Ki Blast, this is pretty much straight out of the manga and the anime. It's a famous shot from the opening credits. It's a good looking effect. It's molded in a transparent pale yellow with some silver paint to give it some sparkle, which looks really good. The energy wave shape is effectively conveyed. Other shapes are also conveyed. There's probably a way to sculpt this so that it didn't look like a penis, but they didn't do that. The stand has no articulation. The height isn't adjustable. So it's pretty much this height and this height only. It attaches to his hands via square pegs. It's a little surprisingly heavy. I think it feels like it's maybe made of PVC and not ABS like these effect parts usually are. Definitely want to stick to using it with the stand if you try without. And although he's shown on the box doing a Destructo Disc pose, he does not come with it. Earth's Strongest Man does, however, and it is one of the coolest effects in the line, especially if you get some light going through it. A lot of people will probably want to use it with early Z Krillin. Unfortunately, the hands are not compatible between these two. Earth's Strongest Man has much bigger hands, bigger wrist sockets, and has holes in the hands instead of pegs like the new one. But if you don't know this, the peg on the disc effect is actually removable. I discovered this kind of by accident when I was reviewing the Full Power Frieza that has the same effect. You're going to want to not do what I just did and send it flying across the room. Now I'm going to go crawl on the carpet for a moment and try to find it. So yeah, word of caution, if you're going to try to remove the peg from the disc, it's very small, so just be very careful when you do it. If it's not coming out easily, just make sure you are set up in a way where once it suddenly comes out, you're able to stop it and catch it. And until I put it back into the disc, I'm going to put it safely under the effect stand. All that is just to demonstrate that once you have that peg removed, slips over the peg on New Krillin's hand. It's not, it's just resting over the peg. It keeps it from like falling off too easily, but it's not being held in place by anything. It's just resting there, and then the peg keeps it in position. But that works okay short term. I maybe wouldn't display it like this for long. For the price, I wouldn't mind this Krillin coming with another disc and a hand to use it like this. And checking out the gritting teeth faces side by side. ESM's looking off to his left, and his mouth is a little narrower. Son Goku's old friend has a bit wider, more expressive mouth, wider eyes, smaller pupils. He has a couple of sculpted veins popping out of the top of his head. So I think this is definitely a little bit more of an intense expression. Both serve a purpose, though. And since Tamashii thinks it's more important to release Figuarts Guru than Kid Buu or a Perfect Cell, and so on, they're doing that. And to complement that, they gave Krillin this face, which is pretty specific to when Guru gives him the 1-star Namekian Dragon Ball. He gets super excited to just have one, but then he also is kind of reacting to how big it is compared to the ones on Earth. So that's the reason for this face. He does not come with a 1-star Namekian Dragon Ball, however, so to do this, you'll have to borrow it from Gohan Kid Era, who comes with the deactivated 1-star ball. The Battle Armor Krillin comes with the activated glowing 1-star ball, if you prefer that for some reason. While it's great to have a happy face for Krillin, this one's so specific to the scene with Guru. Although I had some fun setting it up with the Goku and tiny little kid Gohan set to kind of recreate the scene where Goku tells them that Gohan's his son. And a quick close-up just to show you the detail in the open mouth. It looks really good. Good amount of depth. Good color separation between the teeth, the tongue, the back of the mouth. And you can even see some of his gums poking through above the top row of teeth there. He has these 2 beads of sweat dripping down the side of his face, and they're cleanly painted, but they are also sculpted, which is pretty cool. Great expression, just kinda specific. Quick posing test. When I saw they'd be including this scattering bullet effect, I was very curious if Krillin would be able to pose like this, because if you follow that move to its conclusion, I think it ends with him directing the ki blast onto the ground. It's basically like a 4-point Spider-Man crouch type of pose. And it's okay. It's not exactly great, but it's pretty close. And you can make it work, especially if you get a nice and low camera angle. And quick look at the eyes open shouting face. Another really good open mouth expression. Again, good depth, good color, good intensity in the eyes. Yeah, that's a great one. Compared to Earth's Strongest Man from just a couple years ago. Again, going for a much more exaggerated, intense expression this time around. This one, a little bit subdued by comparison. Both look good though. And the shouting face with his eyes closed. Great for the solar flare. Most useful ability in the show that they always forget for some reason, especially after the Namek arc. And yeah, another great one. Very similar to the open-eyed shouting expression. It's hard to tell if it's a unique sculpt, but just with the eyes tightly shut. Overall, if you can look past the proportions and aren't put off by the price on this figure, I would say it's a fairly average release for SHF Dragon Ball. Apart from the faces, it doesn't do anything exceptionally well, and even though the faces are great, it would be nice to have a couple more standard faces for Krillin. I've heard Krillin described as sort of the audience perspective on the events in Dragon Ball. He's kind of the Dragon Ball world's everyman who has to grit his way through these extreme situations. He's almost always used as Goku's emotional support friend, and there's a reason that for at least 2 arcs in Dragon Ball, Krillin is a significant part of Goku's motivation, and I always like the parts when it's just Krillin and Gohan, or Krillin, Gohan, and Piccolo, because I love a good team fight, and I just like how much grit and heart Krillin brings to those situations, whether it's defending Gohan or strategizing with Piccolo. So yeah, overall, a fairly average figure, but an important appearance for an important character for me. The main drawbacks are price and not exactly matching the other Krillin figures in the line so far. And I don't know about you all, but something I've been feeling lately as the Dragon Ball figures start using more and more soft PVC overlays is just how hollow it makes figures feel in their midsection, and as a result makes them a little bit hard to balance. It kind of feels like that's structurally a really important area that needs a solid skeleton. It's great that they're maximizing range of motion, but I don't want them to start using soft material as the way that they achieve that. I think the mechanical engineering needs to still be up to par. This Krillin worries me a little bit because it really isn't, and it relies pretty heavily on the soft materials to warp and deform out of the way to get the full range of motion. So just some general feedback on the direction the line's heading in. I love the range of motion, but I don't love how hollow and kind of wobbly and unstable the midsections of figures are starting to feel. I don't want this to become a skeleton with overlay type of line. What makes Bandai special to me is the engineering. I think the shoulders and knees on recent figures are great examples of Bandai flexing their engineering muscles, so let's hope they keep that up and I don't know if people remember what they did with the Tekken Game Dimensions line where they just put soft pants over the legs completely. I don't want that at all. I'm curious what other people think, but I don't like the way that looks. I don't like the way it moves. I don't like the way it feels. And the soft materials are impacting the feel of the figures a little bit for me. Between the abdomen and the hips, I feel like there needs to be something a little bit more solid in there. That's not specific to this figure. It is something I noticed on this figure just because his head is so darn big and makes him a little bit top heavy. But it's something I've been thinking about ever since really the Cell Games Gohan. But let me know what you all think, and I'll see you in the next one.